Welcome to the Clinic Scale podcast with Dr. Tom Lawrence. I'm your host, Dr. Andy Kurt, and this podcast is all about the real conversations between building, growing, and thriving in chiropractic, whether you're a new grad, associate, or already running your own show. If you haven't listened to episode 1 with Tom yet, pause this, go back, and check it out. We covered clinical certainty, scaling mistakes, and how to stop getting stuck in the busy but broke trap. Today, we're shifting gears slightly and digging into what it really takes to build something long-term whilst leading a team, raising a family, and still being lit up by your mission. Let's dive back in. Tom, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Matt.
Good to see you again. So let's get straight to it. It's been a few months since we've done this. Well, not that long, actually, really. But I wanted to pick your brain. I wanted to invite you back for episode 2 because there were a couple of topics that I wanted to cover today, particularly about your leadership style, how you balance everything, mistakes that you've made in the past, and just where you're going from here. So just to break that down, one of my first questions for you, Tom, is what leadership challenges have you faced in building your clinic?
Leadership, well, there's a few over time, and we've been going nearly 14 years now. I think the first thing from a leadership team is just making sure that everyone is in line with the vision of where we're going. Now, it's one thing that I think everybody who owns a company over a set amount of time has to do a rain check on. So at the end of the day, we get distracted. There's new things that come up, the shiny objects. We get dug into deep issues and problem solving that comes about. But I think as long as we can align everybody to the same direction of what we're going, and also find out how that you going in that direction is going to help them itself, then that's the strongest thing to keep to create success and keep stuff on the track. And I think over time, I've actually running the companies. I've had moments where I've had to recheck back in with myself and go, actually, like, is this really in alignment with the direction that we're going or not? And looking back at those times where you are deep in it, I think I I have been doing that, even if not consciously with that. And that's a good barometer of where we're going. I think the second thing challenge-wise is understanding that not everything has to be perfect with leadership team to go. And actually, when you're operating with leadership itself, not having to have all the answers of what that job looks like and trying to deliver that to them. So it's a little bit in contrast to the other thing. Like, you've got to have that vision of where we're going. And this is the bus driver analogy that Jim was talking to me about the other night, which is, as the leader, you are driving the bus, and it's fine as long as you know where that bus is going and keeping that bus going in the same direction. People can come and go onto the bus as long as you make sure that bus is still going there. It doesn't matter if they're only on for 2 stops or 5 stops.
Yeah. So does that make you the driver?
That makes you the driver. Yeah, you've got to be the driver. You've got to make sure people are checking in and checking out and making sure that it's okay to do that. And people are obviously riding for as long as they should be riding for. But in contrast of having that control of where the company's going, when you bring in leaders and managers, it's not just dictating and micro dictating what that role is. At that point, you've got to have a little bit of stepping back and letting them come in and empowering themselves, still behind your direction and vision, but having that creative input. Leadership doesn't work if you're constantly trying to say, well, this is how it should be done. You can start that conversation, but then you've also got to guide them and allow them to have ownership into that thing. And I think when I talk to other business owners where it's not got traction with a leadership team properly, it's where they have been trying to say with too much detail of what that role should look like. Yeah, again, it's about the vision and direction, not necessarily about the specifics of that role to the T. Because if not, you may as well be doing it as well, and then you never get freedom.
Yeah.
Does that make sense within that? Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and then the other thing that's been a massive challenge is also understanding that, leadership roles aren't forever as well, and making sure that just because somebody's in that position that we are constantly reevaluating whether that role is correct. And that's been
How do you do that? How do you, I mean, we can hire someone and they can smash an interview, but how do
yeah.
you continue to tell if someone is right for your business?
There's two different points to that. The interview and bringing somebody on board is very different. I mean, from an employment standpoint, bringing somebody into our team, I'm mainly looking for personality. I'm looking for personality and the strengths about their persona. I'm not, you know, training somebody to do a protocol is something that a majority of people can come in. Looking for the right person and the right energy within that team is a different trait. So that's one thing about onboarding. When somebody first comes into a role as well, you've got to realize that they're most confident and most passionate within that first 6 months. That's where the big change will come within the company or the ideas, and then settling in over that next year to a year and a half is where if it's not cultivated, that'll drop off. And that's where people can become complacent, and especially if, as a leader, you're not challenging them or helping them develop or moving them forward. And I think it's really hard, but you always have to be monitoring as the leader, the leadership team, whether things are still being driven in the right direction or if they need any support or growth within that. But then you always enter into very difficult decisions and tough challenges. One of the hardest things for me over the last few years is changing and removing one of the roles of somebody who was really loyal, really good person in our clinic. As the clinic and the shift moved, we realised that it wasn't her, it was the role that wasn't working. And then having to have that very difficult conversation around
Yeah.
that.
Have you, I mean, we do appraisals with our team, so I try and do them on a quarterly basis if possible.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I mean, a business should appraise their staff every 3 months. Some people call them same page meetings, appraisals. Do you follow a similar structure, and what does that look like?
So our appraisals are officially every 6 months. So we're not every 3 months within it, but we do have subdivisions of, depending on the person, on the role, like quarterly goal meetings and setting it, stats and all that sort of stuff with it. So our official one-to-one sit downs with each of the team members is an appraisal every 6 months. But there's always contact points during probably a 3 month cycle, like you say, of like helping and working out and then setting the goals going forward, making sure that actually what we're setting as a challenge, like I said in the last interview we did, is actually in alignment to them as well as you. Because if somebody doesn't want the growth that you're trying to push as well, it doesn't mean that they should be removed from the team. It just means that everyone has to reevaluate the expectations, and then you have to recalibrate actually what the needs of the company is and whether there is a gap that can be filled or whether that something else needs to be filled, somebody needs to step aside.
Yeah, and one of our things that we do is, and you're reevaluating all the time, and we do the same. So one of the things that we do in our clinic is we first of all we hire based on the core values. So as you said, you can train certain protocols and certain skill sets to a certain extent, and you could hire a marketing person and them not be good at the kind of marketing that you need within your business. You have to train them up anyway. But ultimately, we look for the right people to fill in the right seats, and they have to hit every single one of our core values. So we send the core values via WhatsApp or something like that, and we ask for a video back. And we ask for a 2-minute video answering questions about the core values, like why they want to work for the team, why should we choose them over the other 100 applicants we've had. If it's a chiropractor, like why did you become a chiropractor, for example? So we would ask that, do the core values, and when we're actually in that final decision of are we going to take this person on, and we're doing this right now with multiple roles in our businesses, we apply the GWC principle. So does that person in front of us get it? Do they understand what the job role requires? Do they want it? Do they really want that job more than anything right now? And do they have the capacity for it? Do they have the skill set? Or if they don't have the skill set, do they have the knowledge, willingness to learn, and motivation to then be able to do that job? Do they have the capacity? So it's GWC, get it, want it, capacity. And then if they do those things, then we think, okay, so we've got the right person, and are they in the right seat? So is it the right person, right seat, or is it right person, wrong seat? So you can have the right person in the team, but they put them in a seat of, say you've got a CA that you've hired, and you think actually they're not the best CA, they'd probably be more suited to something else. Or you've got a leadership seat, someone that's in a clinic manager role, but actually their strengths are more in marketing. Then you can move them into different seats. You can have multiple seats in a business, and one person can be in multiple seats, but only one seat can have one person in it. And that's what we have in our clinic. So we've got multiple seats to fill. I mean, what does that look like in your business? So in your leadership team, how does that look like? What does that look like for you in terms of that organizational chart, and how important is that?
No, like obviously we coach here for a long time as well, in terms of like my coaching group, and we do follow the GWC principle as well. So everyone has the accountability for a certain seat and role. Doesn't mean also that they have to do it. And that might sound strange, but what it does mean is that they are responsible for the person or the resource they
Yeah.
carry out. So yeah, that's exactly it. So in our leadership team, I think that's
Yeah.
a big leadership team.
So if your job role is like you're head of marketing, you're responsible as good it gets done, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do everything.
Yeah, correct. Part of that evaluation process that you go through with each leadership team throughout those times is working out where the clog is. So I've just done one after I came back from holiday with each of the leadership team, so the one-on-one meeting, and looking at the marketing role. So we'll take that, saying, look, we're going to have a sit down in 2 weeks. What I need you to do is, I want you also it's not just get it, want it capacity, but on the capacity side, we want to know what currently needs to be done more of that's been dropped,
Yeah.
what things are coming up that we might not have skill sets for, and like what roles are, uh, what jobs are basically things that we aren't skilled for. Right? So then we're analysing the market to go, well, actually, we're looking at this sort of marketing. We need to push this sort of message more, but that's going to require either me taking time out to do this, or we need to hire somebody in. So from a capacity point of view as well, you're then trying to again clog the gaps in the bucket to make sure that things still move on. And also, it's also the evaluation on a regular basis of what is the return. Because yet again, as I sit down with somebody and be like, look, from your work week, we're seeing that, and you're doing great. You're doing really great work with it. One of the people that's working for you is taking 2-3 days on this side project that we've got, but the return on that is actually 0.05. Whereas you're losing some of the core jobs that we need doing, which is actually pushing the remainder or 80% of the revenue growth. But we're losing that because the direction is following the shiny object. So you need to pick up that and manage that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like each week we have our weekly productivity meetings, and like there'll be a list of, by the end of that, once we've covered all of our issues, we've got our to-dos for the week, and you'll set the to-dos, and then you'll go halfway through the week and you'll see one of the team members working on something completely irrelevant, even relevant to those to-dos, and you start to think, why are you doing that when we know that the key things that are going to move the needle in this
Yeah.
business is that. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
to say things do crop up. Yeah, I get that. Like we had our phones went down in our clinic, and we've had to sort that out as a priority. Things do crop up, but then when there's other things that come up, like you say, the shiny toy syndrome, for example, and then that's the distraction. Then like, are you still going to get your to-dos done by next week? Because you need to get 90% done. And that's our rule in our clinic.
So my current coach, when we talk about leadership team, said it should be take a piece of paper and he says, right, this is 100%, and draws a line across and goes, right, that's 80%. Then he draws a small line going up and he's like, this is 15 and that's 5. Okay, so you got 80, 15, 5. So you're like, for each one of your leadership team, 80% should be on the nuts and bolts of what is creating the old procedures, using old resources and creating the same revenue. So this is your generator. It's like your 15% should be on the new stuff, your new projects, your shiny objects, and your 5% should be on creating a market analysis of everything that's happening with you. So, and if we creating a change in that balance, which occurs a lot, and especially for you, Andy, and for me with the different companies outside of the clinic, it's very easy for us to look and be going like, right, I'm going to be putting more resources into clinic scale, or I'm going to find the primary, and then realizing because it's the thing that we want to push forward to help more people, but also then we start forgetting that actually 80% of what's actually keeping us going is the general clinic. Reevaluating that and being reminded on a regular basis that that's actually the main
We were
machine.
having a chat about this earlier. It was like how much time and energy should be focused on both businesses, and I was saying, well, actually, it's kind of one business. If you think about Clinic Scale and Life Chiropractic Clinics Christchurch, it is almost one pipeline into one business. It's just Clinic Scale is kind of like the overarching business over all of it, and it's a pipeline of. Our long-term vision is to grow more clinics, and Clinic Scale will allow us to do that in the long term because it will be about growing onto more sites. So it's a pipeline almost as a business.
Mm.
So yeah, and then we're trying to. My team were kind of saying, but they're completely different. I was like, but they're not. They're actually related. Everything we learn and implement in clinic scale is ultimately going to be used for life chiropractic clinics.
Mm.
So currently
The,
we're looking at expanding sites. So we're looking to expand to 3 sites this year in the South Coast. So I'm very close to having an offer accepted on one, and then the other one's getting quite close too. So we'll be 3 sites in the next year, hopefully. But that's just one business for me. Like my other business is the clinic scale, and because I've built the leadership team, we can do both, and that's where you're leveraging other people's skill sets. So I mean, with regards to your leadership, I'm talking about leverage now, but like, have your leadership principles changed over time, or are they kind of the same as when you first started? This section is all about leadership. So, like your style of leadership, has it changed in any way since becoming a business owner and not
100%. I
opening
don't.
one business? You had to
100%.
adapt.
I
Yeah,
don't think you'll find any person who says that it hasn't, especially in private healthcare game. Like we are not trained to run companies, and we are not trained to run companies of different
yeah.
scale.
Because you have your kind of personality similar in a way to mine. It's like we're quite naturally direct individuals, less fluff, more straight to the point. Like if we
Yeah.
want something done, we kind of want it done now, but also like
Mhm.
with as little fluff as possible when we're kind of having a conversation with someone, which works well for certain people. But obviously, like myself, I've had to adapt to the way I communicate. Being ex-military, that is how we got things done. Is like, what's the mission? Okay, where do I need to go? What time do I need to be there? Great, let's go. That mindset shift has to change when you go into the private healthcare. You can't talk in that way to staff that are not ex-military or not that way
Mm.
inclined to communicate in that fashion. So have you had to tone things down? Have you had to learn to or use certain principles like DISC to approach specific individuals?
Yeah, so there's a few things. Like I said before, no one's got any formal training on any management unless you've done it external. So if you even come out of a healthcare degree, you're trained in how to help somebody, not in how to run a company. That's it.
Yeah.
So the whole experience curve of having to deal with people, how to communicate, how to manage relationships, is a completely different one to in normal life. And working out boundaries within a team from going from a small to a boutique to a larger team as well. That's one thing. The Like I said, personality is different. That's why I was asking about principles. So as far as principles go, I still hold the same ideas of how I operate and what I think is correct and ethical. And obviously, like you said, my principles are quite black and white. That's one of the core values that I've always carried across all businesses. Now, to make sure that that doesn't upset too many people as well, we've had to do a few things. The first thing is obviously I had to learn to actually listen more and speak less, which isn't always the case. I'm sure the leadership team will ask. But the other big thing is actually putting buffers between me and the general team. And that sounds really strange. I operate hands-on within the clinic as a DC, for a few days a week, but also actually having a leadership team there as a buffer who know me better and understand my vision and how I operate, is something that helps when I communicate to them. They can kind of unfilter it into team talk from Tom talk, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so so you've had, so what you're saying is like you've had to learn to sit back and just observe sometimes in your team meetings, as
Yeah,
opposed to talking all the time and just kind of letting some ideas sink and then reflecting on what comes from that.
yeah, or opening, getting other people's opinions, even though in my head as a director personality, I'm like, this is how I initially think it's going.
There's a
Listening
reason
to
you're
the group.
called. There's a reason you're called the director. It's a reason you're in the position of director because your job is to direct the vision of the business. You know where you think it should go. But
So
ultimately,
that's
your team is there. So we're talking in our clinic. Like they said to me earlier in the summer, it's like, Andy, you just let the horses bolt. I was like, yeah. And it's like, well, your job is to steer now. So like, I'm the driver of the car or the bus. In the example you gave earlier, Tom, I'm the driver on the accelerator. I put my foot on the gas. Your job is to make sure we steer it and we provide a good service along the way. So I'll drive it and you steer. And I can so relate to what you're saying. Sometimes it's easier said than done just to sit back and say, like, today I'm going to go in, I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to see what comes from this. And then
but you
it's very
but
hard
you
to hold back because you're the most passionate person in the
yeah,
room
but
about that
it's
business.
learning the fact that as a director you're not managing the team. So there's a difference, and that's the step. It's very easy to sit where we are now and be like, yes, this is where we're going and this is what we do in an opening and let the horses go. But if you're the stable hand that has to drag them in and actually make sure the horse is being trained in the correct way, you're going to get shot in the foot, one by your leadership team and by the rest of your team.
And you're
So
opening yourself up to complaints from your clients as well if things don't go to plan.
so in your example, allowing somebody else to open the gate, but telling them that it's a good time to open the gate is the way forward. And that's been the hardest thing. And you know as well as I do that, I've been on loads of different groups and God knows what else, but the speed of which we want to do things compared to the speed of which can be actually implemented into a bigger team is very massive. So the 3 to 8 man bands can make a change within the team. Whereas actually, when it's a 22-man team plus, there has to be the correct training information to go down. So it was walking in and being like, this is how we're going to do it today.
Yeah, and
It
that's
doesn't
almost
work on
like
that
an
scale.
advantage of having a smaller team is that you can grow at a faster pace. Because as soon as you start adding layers of complexity and more layers of that organizational chart, that's when things are slower to implement. And but also, some would argue with me is like I want to be a gazelle business. Though a gazelle business is a business that grows in revenue by at least 20% every single year. That's what I just love to be a gazelle business. People would argue with me and say slow growth is better in business.
Hmm.
Are some of our other clinics in the country, life chiropractic clinics, I'm part of a franchise. They can be happy with sometimes 5%, 10% growth a year, or even sometimes to stabilize. But some of these clinics, they're 10, 15 years old. They're quite well established by this point. But if you're the new kid on the block, you almost have to work a lot harder to get your name and your brand out there. It's not like it used to be where you could turn on a Facebook ad and get £3 per lead. Now you'd be lucky if you get, and certainly in Dorset, you'd be lucky if you get 20, £30 a lead. So the landscape has changed a lot and you have to work a lot harder.
It depends
Um,
what you do. It also, like, you talk about percentage growth, but obviously for an older team that's in bigger revenue already, bigger jumps are harder, which is one thing. I'm not saying it's impossible, but once you like, if it all depends what you do. I would rather take a more stable, positive culture within the team where I know everyone is working together than a quicker growth path. I'm not saying both can't be the same, but the higher we go on percentage growth and growth and changes, the less stability within a bigger team there is.
and what you can sometimes see is loads of growth. I've seen this in businesses that I've coached. It's like loads of growth. They implement all of the systems and processes and they grow really quickly. And they're like, but I'm losing team members because they're not aligned with the vision. I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of that's a risk. You've got to also nurture them at the same time and understand what they need to understand what you're doing. But also, we were taught in coaching groups that we've been in is that sometimes the team that takes you to one stage of your business aren't the one that's going to take you to that next stage. So if
Hmm.
you're scaling, you might not necessarily have that same team as you're scaling further. It would be nice to bring them on that journey with you, but some people don't want that as well.
Hmm.
Some people are quite happy to be a steady Eddie and just want stability. It's very different. So, like the clinic owners, they are going to always be, most of the time, they're going to be the most driven people in that building, in that business. And they're the one that are going to want to see massive growth. But as you're saying, you said you'd rather have a stable culture and grow slowly, which I get.
Well,
But
it's not always it's a stable, a good culture and a stable team that I've put the investment in over time. Don't get me wrong, there will be changes, which is absolutely fine. Like I say, I'm going to people can get in and go on, get off. But historically, over the years, when we have done big changes like with building, like change five processes in 6 months, like the unsteadiness isn't always. Actually, I guarantee the unsteadiness and the wobble isn't with the leadership team. It's down at the lower. But we also got to recognize that the guys that are on the front line and the guys that are doing the customer service, when they wobble, the clients wobble as well. So it's a fine balance of where we are and making sure that even with the bigger team, when we are implementing change, and don't forget, there's the whole raft of this. Some, yet again, can be you know immediate things that have to change now. Okay, some as a director, we can be like, this needs to change now. But really, when we take a step back, take a breath, it's like, no, it does need to change, but it doesn't have to be in this next month. And
you don't.
you've already loaded your team twice in the
Yeah,
last 2 months of procedural changes.
it's all
Take a
about
breath.
balance, isn't it? It's about
100%.
balance. It's like I have these conversations with Ofra all the time, and we're talking about, is this person still right for the team? Blah blah blah. Where do we need to grow? And I was like, well, we kind of just businesses. Someone told me that business is sometimes messy. I was like, well, I don't want it to be messy necessarily.
Hmm.
I was like, I just want it to be. It's almost like imagine like a seesaw. I was like, running a business is like a seesaw. So sometimes if you're trying to grow that way, the things on the other side of the seesaw will start to suffer as a consequence. You kind of need to get that balance in everything. So if you're focusing too much on the sales, then the marketing will suffer. And if you're focusing on that, then maybe the team building will suffer and you're not recruiting. You're kind of always spinning these hats, aren't you, as a business owner? But and I say this to my coaching clients, is that if you're trying to spin all the hats all the time, oh, like the marketing, we need to work on that again. Oh, look, we need to recruit over here. Oh, look, that person's left. We need to recruit over there now. Oh no, look, the sales have dropped. So if you're trying to do that all the time, and then you're trying to adjust like yourself, like I know you're doing it, a few days a week now. If you're trying to do adjusting full time and run a business, it's a very hard gig to get right. And even if you're trying to run a hybrid clinic with adjusting and having associates, that's hard. But if you're the single doc trying to do everything, that is a very hard way to scale a business.
It
Um,
is. And the one thing that I'd add to that was two things. First thing is, we talk about this balance of risk and reward and is it messy or do we want it slow and steady growth? Like it's the exact same in every portion of life. Like not everyone does all high risk investments. Some people want a mixture of high and low so they get a constant yield. Some want to just sit as long as they know they've got constant growth with low maintenance, that's fine. So it's all on preference. I don't want it to be sounded like it's a big measuring contest of like everyone needs to go with this masculine growth and all that sort of stuff. That's
No,
fine.
definitely not. Definitely not. I
Uh,
mean, I look at like the way
I,
I invest in like stocks and shares and stuff. So my stuff is more kind of medium to high risk, but then I'm, in my 30s. I took a look at my dad. So I was talking to my dad about this. He's like, no, everything in his portfolio, majority is low risk now because he wants to just stabilize his portfolio, which makes sense. And it's the same with business. It's like if you're stable and you're happy with your numbers and it's making you good profits and the team's happy, you're happy, then great, stabilize. But the landscape is different. I think if you're a new business owner, you're hungry still. It's very different. But you're wearing lots of hats, Tom. You're a dad
yeah, yeah.
of two,
Hmm.
a husband, a chiropractor. Congratulations. You're also a teacher. So your dad, husband, chiropractor, teacher. I mean, how do
Mhm.
you juggle all of that without burnout? Is there
Okay, so
is there like any
so
systems or non-negotiables you have?
so we talked about before, I'm sure on the last one about balance. I don't believe there is balance. It's about working out for that moment in time what is the best return for the family or whichever area you want that return to be in. Um, but understanding that there isn't balance, and you have to make a decision at times, and sometimes it'll be rich in work, and sometimes it'll be rich in family. And just making sure that between you and whoever your partner is, or you and yourself, you're happy with that. So not everything has to be equally set all at the same time. And one thing you did mention before was like the guy spinning all the hats, especially within like a leadership team. Now, what I'm learning to do within mine is empower my leadership team to be like, actually, you can decide when we are, or let's decide together when the marketing next pushes. Let's decide together when we have to put an advert. So instead of it all coming back to that central director, you sat there going, people going, shit, Andy, like someone's just about to leave, and we've got two people knocking. Like, what should we do? Having a conversation months or years before, months before, you should be on a yearly review or a 6 month review with your leadership team, going like, what's your p value? So I used to work in bars when I was 18, and you'd have your stock room, and your p value is if the whiskey goes below 2 bottles, we reorder, because we never want to go to zero, because then we don't have stock. Doing that with your team to be like, when the diary capacity on the soft tissues goes between, let's agree what the percentage is. So every week you evaluate it. Once it goes past this, if it drops below, you have the authority to run an ancillary campaign or an ancillary budget. That
You
stock,
make it sound so easy, Tom. Some people are like, well, can you tell me a bit more about how I run that campaign?
yeah, exactly.
You
But
have the control to turn the tap on in the business as and when the business needs it.
yeah, so you're saying, look, as a leader, I'm giving you some creative control within these parameters. I'm allowing you to make a decision within these budgets, within this quarter, around these parameters. But instead of me being the bottlehead, you waiting to come to me and putting pressure on me to make the decision on the commitment, I'm paying you to absorb this responsibility. So let's agree what that percentage drop is. Let's agree whatever the stat is for that area, and therefore you automatically do it. And that's what creates automation over time.
Do you think you can ever remove yourself as the business owner from your business and still remain profitable and grow? As in, can you remove yourself and replace yourself as a CEO of your business? Because I've been doing some coaching with Tony Robbins and his team recently, and they're like, Andy, we've got to try and remove you from Life Chiropractic as a director. I was like, yeah, but no one that I know in our business can drive it the way that I would drive it. They're like, well, we need to find that person then if they're not in your business, or we need to create that person from within your business. You've got to start empowering your team to make make those key decisions. And that's almost like you've got to let go of certain things if you're going to pull yourself back completely. I mean, lots of business owners do it. You know, one of my other coaches is Russell Brunson, and he's managed. He has a CEO of ClickFunnels, for example. Like he has a CEO. He's not the CEO of ClickFunnels anymore, and that was one of his first businesses. He managed to let go of that. I'm sure he still has influence there, but he's let go as the CEO of that business. He's the driver. But I think in this space, in the healthcare space, it's different because you need, if you're going to be a chiropractic, if you're going to be a chiropractic clinic owner, I think you need to be a chiropractor, because you've got to be a very specific type of chiropractor that understands business, understands sales, marketing, HR. There's a lot of aspects that you need to learn. Can someone from another business come in without chiropractic knowledge and run your business? That's the question.
Okay, you ready?
Go on.
Okay, so a few things. One, listen back to what you said and how you said it. And I think you'll find that one of the blocks is you working out what you are not willing to let go of. I think that's one of the things, and trying to work out within it actually, what am I, as I'm empowering other people to come in and I'm creating that culture and that stability within my leadership team. what is the boundary of what I am willing to go for and against, and let other people run. So that's one thing. Can you remove it? I think you can, but I don't think it's for everyone. I think it's up to you. And like I you yet again, it's to what extent you feel you need to be micromanaging what happens. And then the final point is, do you need to be a chiropractor to run that position? And I don't necessarily to run an aspect of the team, to run a business the way that we run it. I don't think so.
Who's going to
So
chiropractors?
yeah, well, it doesn't mean they have to be the person to lead it. You can,
Have a head chiropractor. You could have a head
yeah,
practitioner, for example, and it's something that we're looking at in our business because that's a big thing to take away. We train our chiropractors once a week for an hour,
yeah.
and that's
So I the
and
way there was
who's
the
doing
way
onboarding. Who's going to do your onboarding training? Can you systemize that?
yeah. So the systems are the systems. I don't think even the system has to be managed by a chiropractor itself. My role within mine is I'm realizing that I need more time with my leaders and my lead positions, and I need to empower them and hold them to grow so then they can help the others grow. I train my newbies because at the minute that's where I am, but also I have other senior roles, chiropractor roles, which are buddy systems where they do a lot of training. My head clinician for my group isn't a chiropractor. She's a soft tissue therapist. And it's because from a personality point of view, she's fantastic. I think um, she can, she's got a greater capacity to grow than, say, some others have. I think her traits are fantastic for the team. But the other thing as well is, and this is a bit of a inverse snobbery thing, so I'm smiling. If you hold the position of the chiropractors can only be in charge of chiropractors, you also create power play. And you can get a new grad coming in and being like, well, I'm a chiropractor, and the rest of the team are, even if they've been here for long enough, like I'm in charge of them. And I've seen it happen. I mean, you used to be in the military, mate. Were you an officer, or were you coming in from normal arm infantry or something like
Yeah, so I started in just normal infantry.
that? So normal infantry. Okay, so let's play a game, right? How long were you in for?
Sorry,
How long were you in for?
in the infantry. So the whole service is 2 years.
Okay, so 2 years in, okay, you'd have been in a group, and you would have had a colour sergeant, maybe. You'd
Yeah,
have somebody in your line
yeah.
that had been there for 25 years and would have been the point guard for your men, okay? Who would have been in charge of him?
So you've got your commanders, then you've got officers, and you've got
Okay,
captains, and
so on the other side of it, you have officers coming in, fresh out of Sandhurst, okay? And what position do they go into? In front of the colour sergeant. So suddenly you've got somebody who has got no experience in the game, no experience in the field, who's now telling the colour sergeant in 25 years what to do. Now I've got mates who have gone through the military and become majors and everything, and the guys that I am close mates with are now in Google and in high position jobs. They say that the only ones that were successful in managing were the ones that listened to the colour sergeant, not the ones that came in and barked because they were in a certain position. With
there
actually
is sort of
listening to the
like
commands of
if
the colour.
we're talking about that, there is like an unwritten rule of like respect for anyone that's in a senior position to you. But in terms of like if you're actually going to get results from that team or that unit in that case, then yes, you need to speak to the people that have been in that unit the longest to find out what drives that team and what's the culture of that. Even individual units in the military is like there's a different culture per unit.
Yeah. So you look at clinics where a new grad will come in and you might have had a long serving CA for years. They think that they're in a better position because I've done the degree and you haven't. Okay. So I love the fact that my main person who was in charge of all the chiropractors, and I think it's,
No, because I know there's a bit of a power, like you said, power play there.
yeah, and it removes it. And the people who we've put into the senior roles
Yeah.
and who will be replacing a lead role in the next few years with me, have then all operated under this one person, and it diminishes any of this kind of power play that's in the team, and it's better for culture.
So going back to my question, so you're wearing lots of hats. I mean, how are you juggling it all without burning out? So you're empowering your leadership team, yes, but do you have any other systems that you use or non-negotiables that keep you grounded?
My non-negotiables are team pulses, team meeting pulses, and even when I'm not there, making sure that the meetings are still running even without me. And we all know that the energy changes when I'm not there. Unfortunately, at the minute, um, I'm having to sit into a lead chiropractor role underneath Brooke as a head clinician at the minute. And one of the problems with that is that I'm getting pulled into two positions on the organizational chart, and I need to be removed from here and just going straight up the to the clinic director.
Yeah, we're quite lucky in our business that even the last couple of weeks we're taking on a couple of three new chiropractors. One's got a bit more experience than the other two. The other two are new grads. But I'm quite lucky that we've got offer in our business. My wife, she's also a chiropractor. Probably she got the highest grade in our year at university at the ACC that was at the time. And I'm quite lucky that she can step into that head practitioner role when I'm not available to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, you've got Becky in your business. You're a complete power couple. She runs a lot of the business side of things too. And I think there's a lot to be said for couples that work within businesses and
So
making
Becky's
that work too.
Becky's actually removed herself from a lot of the positions.
She removed herself, offered did the same, and then she came back
Yeah.
in.
So um, she's now assisting my main person staff.
And she's helping you run the Align the North.
Yeah, so she's taken over various side projects as well. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
But with us both still being in those roles of the bigger roles, the ones that are more heavy, it present blocks for long-term stuff.
Yeah.
So we're
And
trying to, again, bring the people in to do that.
Yeah, nice. And they say business problems are never really business problems. They're personal problems that show up as business problems. What do you do personally to look after yourself to make sure that you are at your optimal as an individual? Like, how do you look after your own well-being?
Downtime, as much as I can do. I've got 2 nights I go out and run and touch rugby. But at the minute, because of everything that's going on, the growth pattern we've got, I haven't got like. It all depends on what works for you. So like, I've got a couple of mates who will get up at 5:30 to go to the gym. I can't do that. That's not me. Technically, I could get up, but then I'm burnt out by 2, 3. So it's finding the pattern, especially with the kids and everything else. It's finding the pattern and having the compromise of what works for that period of time. Not thinking that you are less because you can't go and pump iron 3 days a week and do this and do that and be a good dad. Like it, yeah, again, it goes back to this balance thing. Balance doesn't work of everything being equal all the time. It's working out what works for you and what's bringing in the return across all different aspects, not just the business.
Yeah. Yeah, I can think of a few of my leadership team that probably wouldn't be too happy if I said, look, in order for us to get better in business, you need to get up at 5 o'clock and come to the gym with me. I
Yeah.
don't know how
And
well
I mean, the other thing,
people do it. I mean, we've got
yeah.
people in one of our chiropractors does that every day. He's in the gym at 5:30. He's just one of those people, but also he doesn't have kids, so I think it's way more difficult when you've got kids.
And the other thing is the way we structure breaks and holidays has completely changed in the last 2, 3 years. So I used to work like a dog. I used to run, and then we'd book holiday, and then we'd go away, and then I'd be burnt out. So what we do is every 3 months we have a break and have a holiday. And every 6 months we have something of downtime, whether it's a weekend or something like that. So instead of structuring like where we want to go because of time off, we structure the time off because of the breaks and the energy levels. And then we fit everything into that. So we schedule 2 years ahead. So we
Yeah, I
know.
know. So my marketing manager in my team, he said he's worked for big companies like L'Oreal, and he worked with some of their directors, and he said their director would kind of be almost in a position from the leadership team, almost forced to leave the clinic, leave the business for a week just so he can focus on himself and focus on the vision. And I know Steve Jobs used to do that. He used to have thinking weeks. So we just go
Yeah.
off, just him, no tech, just him and a notepad, and we just go off to think for a week away from all the businesses. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think every time I go away, I come back with a more defined vision of where the next quarter should be, or where the
Mhm.
next year, what the next year looks like.
The other thing about scheduling time off as well, and the other thing about scheduling time off is not coming back and going straight back into work the next day. That's a big thing, having a decompression period after.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not the break that you have, you end up coming back and you kind of like going for the jobs straight away. But the other one is as well, if you can get a day off before you go away as well, that's perfect. Because you get to, instead of rushing and trying to tie all loose ends and then traveling and then it takes me 2, 3 days to decompress anywhere I go properly. If we go on a family holiday, 2, 3 days.
Press, yeah. For the big
So,
holidays, it's like even like a
oh
week.
yeah,
You have to think like, is a week enough? Because it takes a week just to settle in and get used to it, and then like the second week is more like the decompression.
yeah.
But then like if you're a chiropractor seeing patients,
hmm
taking 2 weeks off can be quite catastrophic for some people's diaries.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, the best advice that I can give if people are worried about managing a diary and going away for a break is don't run a week off from Monday to Friday. Run it from a Wednesday to a Wednesday. Because then you have a few days at the beginning of the week, a few days at the end of the week, and you can compress a diary and still be working for 2 weeks and compress diary before and after instead of having a full week off on schedule. So that's if you are a new doc or a one-man band or an associate, start thinking about how you structure a week of when you go and when you come back, um, instead of.
But then does that make it about the chiropractor and not the chiropractic?
I think that's a different question. That's about diary
Because the
management.
conversation that we've had is like, do we allow chiropractors to front load and back load their diaries? Yes, some of them are
Yeah,
self-employed, but then that is also not only harming the patient flow. So if you said to someone come in three
yeah.
times a week and you have to squeeze them in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it should be like a
Uh,
Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
yeah.
are we doing the right thing for the patient doing that?
So, um, yeah, no, that's a completely different thing as well. No, I agree with that. Um,
From a
I
numbers perspective, yes, you can front load and back load and take a Wednesday to Wednesday when you do your holidays. But
no,
from a
no, no.
patient
So
management perspective and from
this
a business perspective, that doesn't work
the
for.
reason I'm pausing is there is a different answer for every size of the company. For a one-man band, which you said you may become worried about taking the week off and losing the people, or a two-man band or a small business, that's your solution for a break. Okay. If
Yeah,
you have a bigger team and you have a good culture like we do, of it's not about chiro, like it's not about the chiropractor, it's about people getting what they need. Sorry, I've got a kid talking behind me. Then it's about that co-management, making sure everybody's just holding that space in diaries and keeping people on plan. When we've got people in a team like ours, which are big, and we look at, again, I've given authority to one of my managers that if somebody's taking a week off and they're one of the guys which is spinning 180 people a week or somewhere around that, then make the decision of where we bring them a locum and, and allow growth. Because if you have somebody who is, say, 150 to 200 in a certain size team, and the rest of the team cover the diary for them, you actually get stalled 2, 3 weeks later because they cover. There's no in the guys that are developing their diary. There's no space for growth to see new guys. Everyone's busy. Everyone's happy for those for those weeks that they're off. The busy guy comes back. Everyone goes back in the diary because the guys who haven't had growth, haven't had new guys. There's a natural crash 2, 3 weeks after.
absolutely, and that's what we see in
So
our projects as well. So that's why we're going to be with 7 chiropractors at the moment. We're going to be 10 chiropractors
yeah.
by January, and we're thinking
hmm
like even with 7 chiropractors now, we're struggling for people to cover each other around Christmas time. And we're already looking at Christmas. People are already asking for time off then. And like, well, if you can't get cover, then we can't give you the time off. And it's like, okay, well, do we need to bring in someone external to just locum at that time
hmm
to be able to? I know like there's Danny Scarhill that's really a really great locum, and he's going to be in one of our episodes soon. But like maybe it's bringing in those locum guys to make sure that you don't lose that growth, so they can still see the new patients, they can still do the ROFs and see all those normal adjustments, and everyone else's diaries are still growing, just like you said.
It's
Maybe
worth
that's
it, but you need to agree the value of what that is for what person. So I won't be doing that for somebody who's within a certain time period who is keeps falling out. Who's only seeing certain. So yeah, that's the answer for that. I think going back to what you were talking about, is it about a chiropractor or chiropractic? It should always be about chiropractic, but no matter, especially as business owners or managers or leaders, we sit here and go, well, they should be seen by other people. There's always a natural tendency from the practice member to potentially rearrange around somebody. It's the duration of the
you've got to
time
try
off.
and get you've got to try and get that education right from the start. So as part of like our initial scripts,
Yeah,
make it clear that sometimes I might not be here, but it's about the chiropractic here, so it doesn't matter who you see as long as you get that adjustment and you follow that plan.
but even then, Andy, we can say that, but even then,
Oh
there's
yeah,
people
even
get it.
then people will have a preference. Like if you go to a hairdresser and you trust them for years, and then someone else comes along, like, oh, you're going to see that person, but it's about the dressing, not the hairdresser. You can be like, I don't care because I only trust that person.
And it's the amount of time that people are off as well. So
Yeah.
there'll be more shift of the practice members anyway around a week off compared to say like we've got somebody who's one of our highest performing guys has been off for 6 weeks with
Mhm.
surgery for a hernia.
Yeah.
Now, completely different story. Locum cover, especially when somebody else goes off, is the correct thing to do at that stage.
Absolutely. So so in terms of like learning, we're talking about associates here. Like, so there'll be a lot of students and associates listening to this, and business owners, of course, but some starting out as new grads. Is there a book or a course or a resource you could recommend to anyone that's looking to grow personally or professionally?
Look, there's Rosie, and Peter is
There
there.
we are. This is the reality
um,
of running a business with kids.
yeah. So I'm an audiobook man more than anything. I struggle reading, especially time and brain moving and things. But I'm not going to recommend any of those. I think the biggest resource you have is other people, I think, and support. I would be saying if there is a new grad listening in, for God's sake, work with somebody else for the first 2 3 years, and preferably work in an area if you can do it that's not in the area you want to work long term. So go and get support, learn how to do it. There's no other, you know, there's no other job, even in the medical world, uh, where you don't go through a certain role of progression. You don't just go in and be a consultant. Like you need to have somebody with you to guide you. The idea of somebody coming as a new grad and working in a closed room without any support or a one-man band or just being shifted into one clinic is one thing that really turns my gut because it's happening all the time and it doesn't help people develop and people get lost. Too many people dropping out of our profession. So that's the first thing. The second thing is what we talked about last time, which is get an accountability group. Just have somewhere with the right people around you to at least provide some ideas to spur thoughts on about development and keep you accountable for growth going forward. And take on a coach. Like this is why I do it. This is why I help do the finding the primary stuff is to get people systems that deliver results hands on all the time, consistently. This is why you do it with the scalability. Because you can like having a coach, taking on we started training with Ryan originally, didn't we? That was one of the most significant growth changes that I went through with the company. And every coach I've had has provided something else which would have taken me 5 10 times the amount of
Yeah.
time and 2 3 times the amount of cost to work out how to work.
Absolutely. I mean, you're learning from their not only their successes, but also their failures.
Failures,
So if they
100%.
failed like thousands of times at trying different things, you're going to learn from that, and you can shorten the time that they've Ryan running house 9 clinics at one point. You're shortening the time that's taking him. I don't know how long he's running it for, but at least 10 years, I think. You're shortening that time of what he's learned in 10 years into what I can learn from him in say 2 3 years of coaching. That is worth a lot, right? And the same if you're learning from you, Tom, or if you're learning from me, we've gone through those pains too. So not only we had invested in the coaching ourselves, but also we've invested in our own clinics and our own experience doing this. And there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, I was quite lucky when I came out of university that I landed a really good chiropractic role within Life Chiropractic Clinics. My coaches at the time were people like Roy Raphael, who's the guy that developed Zoni, and he was running 4 clinics at the time. So I had, not only did I have Roy's brain to learn from, and his leadership team, I also had Ryan's. So I combined the two and was able to create this amazing clinic in Christchurch, and now able to create this coaching and this leadership and scaling system that we're building with Clinic Scale. That alongside Ryan Riders, you've got a good recipe for success there. But I am still learning. I've got my coaches now. I've had to learn from outside the industry at this point, as I use with some of your coaches. And we are all students of chiropractic, and we're students of growing businesses too, and that never ends. Moving us on. So you're saying like the resource that you go for is find an accountability group and find a coach. That's the key thing you would say. Have there any been, going back to sort of like failures and things, have you had any recent like failures or mistakes or challenges that have changed the way you think or work? That could be either in practice or just in general life. Is there anything that comes to mind that's happened more so recently?
What, today or this week?
Something big. It can be, but it can be to that if you wish.
God, what's been the most recent failure? Most recent failure has been communication lines that have been mixed again. And it's an ongoing, because again, we brought in new roles, and it's just refining that process until everybody knows exactly the expectations of what we do. So it's not a failure. It's something it's a learning point, isn't it? It's a learning point to go, well, actually, we should be doing this. And so let's change the word failure to refinement. It's like on the first episode, you asked me, is there anything that you want to change? And I'm like, no, because everything that we've just said, everything that you can take every failure and look at it and be like, fuck that, I'm not doing that again. Or next time we do this, we're doing it like this. It's been invaluable.
It's business is about you have to fail before you succeed, and you have to invest in your business before you start to see success. So, I've had multiple failures. I've had other businesses before this business. In COVID, when I was a chiropractor and our clinics closed for 3 months, I developed a business called Pain Specialist Online. So I tried to bring the chiropractic knowledge I had into that space, giving people advice about nutrition, healthcare, exercise. The only thing you couldn't do is adjust someone on camera. That was the hard, that you couldn't do that. So that was for me, that was something that I knew I didn't want to do that long term. It didn't align with my values, because I knew that chiropractic is the thing that will really make the biggest difference. And but yeah, it's about you're failing, but it's about failing fast and then pivoting from that, isn't it? What's next for you and finding the primary? Are there any exciting developments we should be watching out for?
Yeah, so we've realized over the last year we've kind of done everything in the wrong order in terms of how we've launched products. So we've been going for like 5 years, nearly 6 years now. And from a marketing point of view, if my granddad was here, because he was a professor of marketing, he'd probably have kicked me in the head by now. But what we've done is, to instead of attracting an audience in a more traditional way, we've created all the products, created all the seminars, launched them, then gone, right, now we need to market on short and long term form. So we're now actually working back, and we're providing loads of, we've got videographers in every 3 to 6 months, and we're providing loads of different content, some which are going to be front facing, some of which are rear facing as well. So behind walls. But if you jump to our social media, there's going to be, I think there's a video released every 3 days, and it could be either a question answer that someone's called in for, it could be just alterations of positions of adjusting, just little snippets to get people, give people something that they can use straight away. We're going to have some more longer form videos already coming through, some case summary stuff, and then post that. The only other things we've got are all the courses. So we've got 5 courses that we're doing. The next one is a adjusting module A in September. That's down in Cardiff, and that's just how helping people perfect adjustments, everything from the fingertip all the way up to not wanting, I think about 5 or 6, 7 different ways.
Nice.
And then we've got the next fundamentals, which is the process of actually where to adjust for maximum efficiency, so you get consistent neurological changes that you can see and they understand. That's in November in Bristol. So if anyone is interested, get along to that one, because that's going to be the real eye opener of how to really change and scale your practice in terms of people getting results which they can see and explain.
Yeah. And can you
So
tell us a little bit about Alloy? I mean, that all sounds great, by the way. Like
yeah,
can't comprehend. I mean, I know what it takes because I'm doing the same and with my businesses, but just not only running like one of the most successful chiropractic clinics in the country, you've got all of these side projects and these other businesses that you're running too. It's just incredible, and it's so inspiring for not only myself but everyone listening. We're thinking, how on earth does he have time for all of this? But you've got a mission. It's so clear that you know exactly where you want to go, and you're just doing whatever it takes to make that happen, and it's very inspiring. You're also running Align the North,
yes.
and can you tell us a little bit more
Yeah,
about that?
sure. So we're now probably onto our fifth or sixth Align the North, and one of the reasons we shifted the clinics into one was because I wanted one community space where we can run groups and classes for the community, but also wanted some space to bring different professionals in our area, our healthcare professionals, and different chiropractors, osteopaths, sports therapists who are in our region together. Because yet again, it turns my gut when somebody is working on their own in the room and it could be having thoughts of lack of community within our profession, lack of drive, and all
Awesome.
leading to the potential of leaving. So one of the things that we run is it's a CPD event. It's a 1 day event. We get about, I don't know if it's 6 or 8 speakers this time round. I think it's 6 speakers. We have everyone is together, CAs, teams, a lot. We have half an hour of each speaker delivering to everybody, kind of wet the whistle, give something to them, and then we have um, 2 workshops running alongside. So each one is 45, 50 minutes, and you can choose between the 2 locations. So one might be downstairs, one might be upstairs. We've even toyed with a third room. So you get to choose what your schedule is on that CPD event. And the whole premise of it, and it runs every 6 months, is stuff, not fluff. Stuff, not fluff. I'm a Yorkshireman. I don't want to just hear a message of something being positive. I want somebody to walk out of our events, be able to go back on Monday and be like, right, I'm freaking doing this.
Yeah, and I'm speaking at one of your events next year.
You are. So we have got a full schedule booked up until, are you September 2027?
2026, I believe.
2026. Nice. Yeah, God, what are we in now? 2025. Yeah. So yeah, we're even got speakers coming up for 2027.
That's amazing.
Very excited. It's not also like a massive 200, 300, 400 people event. It's quite close and intimate, and you get the time with the people there. And we'd love for it to grow into something more to develop and bring everyone together. That's why it's called Align the North. Even though there's contention whether Sheffield is the north of England or not, we're on the border. It is, by the way, anyone freaking asks. We are the beginning of the north.
I mean, I couldn't be further south in
Yeah,
but I'm
but what?
helping the north become aligned, I guess.
Yeah, but it's all about bringing people of different political groups, as in different associations together, and cutting away all that bullshit and just being about we're practitioners, let's help each other and let's develop bonds where we can actively support each other, whether you are a 1 man band or whether you're a 50-man team.
And when I'm
Passion
there, I'm going
project.
to be talking about how you can scale your clinic.
There it is.
It
Love it.
sounds really exciting. I can't wait to join you on that event. And if you've enjoyed this episode today and you want more support, strategy, and community around growing a profitable, fulfilling clinic, you can join our free Clinic Scale community group. That is on Facebook. So all you've got to do is ask to join. You just type that in, ask to join. There are a couple of questions about you, so we need to make sure it is for healthcare clinic practitioners only. So we try and keep it quite exclusive for that. And then there's a few group rules to look at too. But we are posting regular content on there. Have a look through some of our older content as well. It's all valuable stuff. And there'll be some links to some guides on there and some calls and that sort of stuff that we're doing too. So also, we have just released a guide for our screening events. So I'm not sure if there's anyone in the country that does as many screening events as our clinic. Currently, we're doing one event every single week, and we are consistent with that, and we go for big events too. So just even the last couple of months, we've generated 300 new patients just from screening events. I'm not sure many clinics could say they're doing that too. But we feel like we're really perfecting this process now. So if you would like to learn about that, in the bio of this, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you listen to it on a podcast, there'll be links to our clinic guide on there. So if you want to be the first to hear about episodes like this one as well, you can join our newsletter. There'll be a link for that too in the bio. So as I said, thank you so much, Tom. We really appreciate you being on the call today. And if you'd like to find out more about Tom and his businesses, we'll put some other links as well below. And in the show notes, you can follow Finding the Primary on socials for updates on Tom's next events. And also, if you didn't catch our first episode with Tom, it was incredible. So have a listen to that episode and you can find that. We'll leave a link to that too. But thank you so much for tuning in again. And we'll see you all on the next episode. Thanks again, Tom.
Thanks, Andy. And thanks, Matt, the unsung man in behind the scenes. There he is.
Yeah, thank you. Matt's our marketing manager who makes doing this podcast all possible. Yes, a special shout out to him.
He's Andy's social worker.
My standing board social worker, my right hand man. Yeah, cool. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll speak to you soon.
See you later.
Yeah, bye.